Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from the Tales from Tech Support subreddit. As I've been mentioning in the past few days, we have moved the Karma crew over to Patreon. And there's 25 of you over there already. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're on the Karma crew on YouTube, I encourage you to move over to Patreon because I'm going to close down channel memberships on YouTube at the end of July and move it all over there completely. So we're not leaving YouTube. Some people have been commenting asking if we're going to leave YouTube or saying they're going to be sad to see us go. No, we're staying on YouTube. We're still uploading videos here every day. However, we're moving the extra content and the fun stuff over to Patreon. So you can visit us there at patreon.com/karmastories and get extra content and see what Carmen's up to as well. All right, on to today's stories. Let's get our nerd on. This story comes to us from Honey Fix It. I made $45 by closing Chrome. Okay, I did a little more than that, but that was the main thing. I'm an amateur tech for hire. I have a little formal training, but I'm mostly self-taught. I mostly work with seniors from the retirement village down the road. Occasionally, I'll get hired by an older Gen Xer. I'm a younger Gen Xer at 48. Anyway, it's not enough to make a living doing, more like a hobby that gets me a little pocket cash now and then. I charge $30 an hour with a 30-minute minimum. Like I said, it's not a lot, and I'm not going to charge a huge amount like the stores do, especially to those who are on fixed incomes. Plus, unlike the big stores, my policy is that if I can't fix it, I won't charge you. So today's client was the daughter of one of my customers who passed away late in the winter. Long story short, I became close to this woman and her daughter. Anyway, the daughter was in town and had been complaining about her computer being so slow. I already knew what the problem was. It was more than 7 years old, and she liked to have 10 plus Chrome windows and tabs open, plus 3 to 4 Word windows open at once. I had explained to her once that her computer couldn't handle that much processing and memory at once. I used different, less technical terms. So when I got a chance to sit down with it, guess what I found? I had to wait more than 7 minutes for Windows to fully load. When it did, Chrome had all these windows open. I told her she had to close them first. I would have done it, but last time she flipped out. So once she got everything closed, I went to work while she went to take a shower. I tested my theory by having Task Manager open and opening several Chrome windows and watching the memory usage go up and up with each one. So by the time she came back, I was just looking for any rogue programs or bloatware that might have been installed OEM. She asked how it was doing, and I said, purring like a kitten. She was surprised and asked what was wrong. I said, user error. I explained what was going on using an analogy of putting things on a physical desk until it was no longer functional. I told her to limit herself to no more than 3 tabs. She asked about her Yahoo that she was having trouble getting into. I had her open it, and lo and behold, it opened no problem. I did some other diagnostic stuff, cleaned up the startup programs, etc. When I left, it was running a full virus scan. She was using some program I had never heard of called ESET, but it was doing fine, so I didn't mess with it. This was probably the easiest job I've ever done. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called It's Codal. It says, you must be pretty strong at communicating and creating analogies if you're able to fix user errors like this. So many jobs helping end users are just finding technical solutions to limit the damage they can do, given how many will stubbornly resist learning or doing things the right ways. So think not that the charge is for closing Chrome, the charge is for years of learning how to coach users effectively. I have the utmost respect for this OP because they're helping out older people who may not know what they're doing, and it sounds like they're enjoying doing it as well. That's gonna make these older people who need the help extremely happy and extremely thankful as well. There's a great analogy that really does fit this situation, and it is, fixing this is $1 for turning the screw, and $99 for knowing which screw to turn. This story comes to us from Brainwave CC. You should be able to do the migrations faster. Early on in my career, I ended up managing a pretty major project in our department of over 100 users. we were upgrading everyone from Windows 3.1 to Windows for Workgroup 3.11 on new hardware. I was averaging about 3 to 4 user migrations per day, but for some reason, my boss felt that was slow. Here's the high-level process that was used for migrating the users. 1. Build out a new desktop for a user. 2. Back up the data from current machine, then apply it to the new one across the network. 3. Coordinate with each user on a time where they could be free for at least 90 minutes. 4. Start the migration process with a final backup of their data to the network. 5. Swap out their old computer with the new one and do one last X copy from their backup repository to the new computer. Steps 1 and 2 were being conducted at my leisure, but I needed an uninterrupted block of 75 to 90 minutes per user to complete steps 4 and 5 for them. I basically blocked out 2 hours per user to account for getting over to their area with the new machine, any little overhead in the process, and buffer time to handle any other responsibilities that might come up. All of this was happening in a regular 8-hour business day. Occasionally, I could manage 5 migrations in a day by migrating 2 users in the same area at the same time. But mostly, I tried not to take out whole teams at once. For whatever reason, my boss was sure that they could be done faster. I can't see why it takes more than an hour to complete a migration, he said repeatedly. No matter how I outlined the process to him, he kept up on the second guessing. He continued the passive-aggressive nagging for about 3 weeks into the project when I was just about halfway through the migrations. One Monday, he suffered hardware failure on his primary desktop and decided that this was a good time to upgrade to his new machine, and that he would do it himself. He sort of spun this at me, not having to stop the migrations to deal with him. But I also suspect that he relished the opportunity to prove that it could be done faster. Okay, worked for me. Now, in fairness, he and I were already running a different configuration from everyone else in the department. At the time, he and I were running Windows NT 3.51, and our 2 machines were being backed up to tape alongside the critical servers in our department. This is very pertinent to the saga. On his first attempt at installing Windows NT 3.51 on his desktop, he ran into a couple of snags, which consumed considerable time, and which I helped him with in between staff migrations. 1. He had trouble getting the drivers for our non-native SCSI controllers recognized, so we had to get those drivers and put them on the floppy. 2. Even though I had told him to make a temp install to a different folder so that he could restore his whole OS from tape, he forgot that, perhaps with all the hoopla of the floppy drivers, and ended up doing a regular install, which then could not overwrite key files for itself from the tape drive data. Thus, he lost all of Monday with the hardware failure itself, plus getting to the place of deciding to do the build, and then learning about the need for the floppy, issue 1. Tuesday was consumed with doing the install to the wrong folder, running into the initial issues with trying to restore, and starting a new clean install. If I recall correctly, late on Tuesday evening, the tape restore was kicked off to restore that data back over the machine, issue 2. Now, we were using a nice backup solution that was prioritized for backup performance, not restore performance. A full backup over the network took about 4 or 5 hours if I recall correctly. The restore, however, took around 20 hours. So there goes Wednesday pretty much. Late afternoon on Wednesday, he rebooted to find that a few configurations from the apps were stored different in the backups than he expected. It was mostly fine, but he went home preparing for more tweaking on Thursday. I also got a lot of questions from him about what exactly was part of the backup process and where exactly did each app store its files. By Thursday evening, he was good. Meanwhile, I averaged about 3 migrations per day that week because, well, I had to start checking in on him more and more each day. On Friday, just before departure time, when he asked how many migrations I had done that week, the number was 17. He made no comment this time. Thankfully, even though his experience with his personal restore was actually more complex than the migrations I was doing, it seemed like he accepted the fact that things were not as simple as they had imagined they would be, and he was grateful for my assistance. And never again did he question me about migrating only 3 to 4 users per day, or why each migration took so long. I completed the project about 4 weeks later. We had some stragglers near the end, as you might expect with a long project, where all the cooperative folks go early. Once or twice a year, I remember this project, and I can't help but laugh each time. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called For the Lulz. It says, "This reminds me of a quote I saw the other day. We do not do these things because they are easy. We do them because we thought they were easy." Yeah, this is one of those cases of, if you want it done fast, I can absolutely do it fast, but if you want it done right, well, it's going to take a little bit of time to do it right. OP was actually running a very streamlined process here from all of their experience doing this in the past, and the boss was just one of those seagull managers that comes in, craps all over everything, and then flies back out. You know the type, right? Gosh, it's a wonderful day when you see your boss say they can do something better, and it turns out that they can't, and they know it, and it's on display in front of everybody. Oh, gotta love that. This story comes to us from Strazdaz1. Internet slows down the computer. Back in the day, I used to moonlight as a personal IT after work. Mostly remove viruses without losing data situations. This one was different. I get a call from a user that was referred by a previous client. The issue is described as computer gets slow when using the internet. We agree on a meeting at their home. What I find there is an ancient desktop running an Athlon XP 1400 CPU. The user shows me the setup, and it looks like he's taking proper care of his Windows XP installation. No bloat or typical user stupidity. Then we get to using the internet. The user downloads and uploads files to an FTP server. The data contents are not my business, but he makes a download to show me the issue. As soon as he starts downloading, the computer starts freezing to the point where the mouse cursor is lagging. I look for what may be causing it until I notice the CPU usage. Turns out the user's internet provider has been better than expected and given him an uncapped connection. The user was downloading at over 300 megabits per second, at which point the CPU simply could not keep up with the managing of data, and just handling the simple FTP download protocol would take all of its resources. The user had issues understanding what was going on because why would using the internet need my CPU? However, after a while, I managed to talk him into understanding he needs a new machine, and I cannot solve the issue without replacing the computer. Since I didn't fix it, I didn't get paid, but it was still an interesting experience I never saw before or since, where the CPU was a bottleneck for a download. This one is awesome. I remember those Athlon CPUs that you could use to keep your house warm during the winter because they ran so hot. You could fry an egg on top of your computer just from running a really basic game. Does anybody else here feel like OP still should have been paid for that visit? At least part of their regular charge anyway? They did identify the problem, and they gave the user a solution. It's expensive, but that's not OP's problem, that's the user's problem, right? They were called out to fix the problem, and they told the person how to do that, so they should still charge the user. This story comes to us from Oinky Competence. Internet slows down the computers, too. After reading Internet Slows Down the Computer, the previous story, I was reminded of 2 times over the years where businesses thought they knew best. It's always interesting to know or wonder how people think. First, we took over IT support at a small regional bank around 2005. 3 locations. Upon onboarding assessment, we discovered their HQ location had 2 data drops at each station. Not too unusual on the surface. One was connected to the PC's onboard NIC, while the other was connected to the PC's add-in NIC. Okay then, I assume one NIC went to the main production network, while the other must surely connect to a different network or VLAN, maybe for their bank core processing or something. Until I dug deeper and found out they didn't. All NICs connected to the same set of switches. Alright, surely they have some VLANs in place separating things out? No, they don't. It's all VLAN 1 everywhere. I asked and finally talked to someone who was around when they built the building in the 90s. Whichever IT contractor they worked with at that time told them they'd be more secure if they had a separate NIC in each PC for internet access. They thought they were accomplishing this by plugging in a separate NIC into the same switch and VLAN. How or why they assumed this, I never found out, but thus begun the process of disconnecting all the second, redundant network connections. Second, it's 2015 now, and I was called to perform some upgrades at a small company involved in the farming sector. 10 PCs or so. Went there to assess what needed to be upgraded, as the customer said they have old PCs and need new ones, but aren't sure what. I look around and ask basic questions, like what line of business apps do they have, what they have for internet service, etc. And as I ask the internet question, my contact shows me, oh, we plug this in when we need to get online, and he grabs a second Ethernet cable at his desk connected to a currently disconnected USB NIC. That network cable was plugged into their standalone cable modem in the basement. You know, the one with 4 LAN ports. I asked, does everyone have one of these? Not everyone, just the 3 of us, I was told. As it turns out, this small family-owned company was run by a very sweet but very old lady who was so scared of internet access, she insisted people plug in when they need to get online, do their thing, then unplug it, and forget about Wi-Fi. After some gentle discussion with her, I was able to convince them to include a proper firewall in the scope of their upgrades, and thus eliminated the need for them to have to plug in manually every time they wanted to get online. So I can kind of understand this older lady because I'm old enough to remember when the internet was just becoming a thing and you had dial-up and bulletin board systems and IRC. Oh my gosh, I miss the old days. Anyway, yeah, there were a lot of people out there that were scared of the internet and all the things that came with it. So in this case, they're literally air gapping their system when they don't want to use the internet. It's a wonderful thing, but it also makes you wonder if some of that air gap was between the left and right ear. Alright, I think we'll end this one here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform, or if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. If you'd like to join the Karma crew, come on over to Patreon at patreon.com/karmastories and get some exclusive content from Carmen. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.